The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back to another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. I'm hoping that you guys have had a great week. This episode is jam-packed. I spoke with Mariah Smith this morning. She's a reporter for The Cut and covers all things Kardashians. I asked her about the Khloe Kardashian baby drama. This morning, she gave birth to a baby girl in a Cleveland hospital and somehow allowed the father of her baby, Tristan Thompson, to stay in the delivery room with her, despite the fact that video was released this week of him with several other women. I asked Steve Stoff to review the Jersey Shore family vacation. Rachel Jeffs is the daughter of Warren Jeffs. Warren Jeffs is the leader of the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints movement, the group of people who live on a polygamous ranch. And she just wrote a book called Escaping Polygamy. And I asked her about not only just what the experience is like to live on a polygamous ranch, but what she thinks about all of these polygamy-themed shows that are on television right now. And there are, I think, about 4 or 5 of them now. And I also asked Liz Farrell, a reporter for the Island Packet in Charleston, South Carolina, to give me some insight into the Southern Charm premiere episode, which aired last week. So it's jam-packed, guys. I'm hoping that you sit back, relax, and have a cocktail or a bag of pretzels. So here we go. One of the best things about being pregnant, besides all the food that I'm eating, are my pregnancy naps. And there's nothing better than a pregnancy nap on a Nectar Sleep mattress. Did you know that they're 11 inches deep? So yeah, bigger is better. And that they utilize a unique 5-layer technology that no other mattress on the market has. Nectar promises a forever warranty on your mattress. Yes, we do mean forever, as in till death do us part and then some. At Nectar, they believe that it's love at first night. And for the cynics out there, they give you 365 nights to discover that happily ever after. And if you are not 100% happy and riding into the sunset, they will actually come to your house, pick up the mattress for free, and you will get a full refund. So listen, wake up pain-free on a memory foam that meets your body's contours and gives pressure point relief. Exclusive listeners, this is your offer. Buy now and get $125 off and 2 free premium pillows with any mattress order and free delivery. That's nectarsleep.com/reality. And get the best sleep you've ever had for every night of the rest of your life, and even then some. Mariah Smith is my new best friend, and I'm going to tell you why. She is a fantastic writer. You probably read her most recent piece on the darkness between Khloe and Tristan. One of the greatest things about Mariah is she does a fantastic job of writing about Keeping Up with the Kardashians and really highlighting the way that the storylines quite often do not match with their own personal timeline. So, in other words, if they say that Khloe on the show found out about her pregnancy and she filmed a scene with her assistant Alexis on October 9th, Mariah will call them out and say, no, based on the outfits that you're wearing and what was going on in your life, this is probably filmed, 3 weeks afterwards. So she's like a pop culture observationalist with a degree in armchair detective forensics, if you will. So, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, so how did they actually meet? What is the true story? How did they meet?
So the true story is apparently they were set up on whatever this is, an ambush blind date, meaning they basically were both at the Beverly Hills Hotel. A mutual friend, Brandon Jennings, who also is an NBA player, had the idea of wanting to set them up. So she's calling this ambush blind date essentially a party. So they met at, let's say, a party, then started dating. But Tristan was still with his first baby's mother, who had her baby in December 2016, and she was about 5 months pregnant at the time. So Tristan, who also, he's never said that he went into this party seeking to meet Khloe. So I think he basically was like, someone was probably like, oh, Khloe's single, oh, Khloe thinks you're cute. And he sort of dipped his little toe in that water, and things sort of progressed from there. And I realize he's an opportunist and saw it as an opportunity and ditched his civilian girlfriend to move up a peg.
Disgusting. So she looked past the fact that this guy was pregnant. His girlfriend was already pregnant.
I don't think she knew he was pregnant or he was having a baby until they were probably in it for about a month or two. I really don't think so, because I do think, I don't think so. Or she would have. And at that point, she was in love. She falls in love quickly, as we saw with Lamar. At that point, she probably was like, crazier things have happened in my family. My brother had a baby with my sister's ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. So that's not like a thing that I think exists. So someone being pregnant in that family that's not deal breaker, That's not a deal breaker.
Okay.
Or bizarre.
So they continue with their relationship.
Yeah. Because they went public in around October 2016.
So when she told the story on the show that she withheld information about a pregnancy because of health concerns, how much of that is true? Yeah. And how much of that was she found out that he was with another woman and she was trying to cover it up or figure it all out?
Well, so that happened about 5 days before. Her talking about the health issues happened 5 days before he was caught cheating. So I think that was actually true, which is even more upsetting because he knew that his pregnant girlfriend was having health issues, but still decided to motorboat two women in a club. So that is completely true. That is completely true. But her revealing the fake reveal of her pregnancy to her assistant, I think was sort of like putting a Band-Aid on the wound or putting on blinders, essentially, and like willing the happiness to exist.
Dear God. Okay, so they continue with this whole pregnancy, and they're living together, and then she moves all her stuff out to Cleveland. What is the timeline in terms of the story breaking, how she found out, and is there any truth to any rumor that Chris was responsible for sabotaging Tristan with this video? I do not think so. Because as I mentioned, I think I put in the cut, the Daily Mail released this footage. The Kardashians don't have a professional relationship with them in the way that they can say, can you hold the story or can you not run the story, or sort of go back and forth with either fact checking or knowing when something's going to be released. They do have that with TMZ and I think a few other outlets. So if Chris wanted to quote unquote ruin Tristan, it's like, Chris is not a monster. She would not do this as her daughter is about to give birth. This would not be the opportune time to do so. It would be, in January or 3 months from now. But I think this was completely something that slipped through their fingertips. They didn't know it was coming, and boom, here we are. Wow.
Because if it was going to happen, as I put, Chris or Chloe, no offense to anyone, no one's first choice is to have a baby in Cleveland, especially if you can have it in Beverly Hills. So there's no reason she would say, I'm going to fly across the country from my family, from my support system, from my hometown to have this baby for a man I know is unfaithful.
Do we think,
or like presently unfaithful.
Do we think that she's going to give Thompson as the baby's last name?
Sadly, I do.
I think you're right.
Sadly, I do.
I think you're right.
They're very, when it comes down to it, very traditional. And it's even how, that's how you get your Stormy Webbers, that your Mason Disick's. That's how, these women are, if this is the father, this is that kid's last name.
Okay, what's the name going to be? Let's take a guess.
I think it'll be simple. My biggest hope is that one of these girls names one of their children Kristen after Chris. That to me would be, I don't think I could be any happier. But I don't know. I think it'll be simple. It's something that most likely will be, I could see her name in the baby, something like Victoria, just something that's just fine,
God, I hope so. I'm
What do you think?
I would prefer if she named that baby Grace
Ooh.
But I think that the baby's probably going to have something that's a little bit cheeseball because his first child,
Yeah.
he named
It's
Prince.
Prince Oliver. Jesus Christ. I do doubt that his input is going to be taken into heavy consideration, though. That I can tell you.
Okay, so what are as an expert in this genre, what can we expect for them to, what's the map out of what's the storyboard for the sequence of events that transpired?
Jesus Christ.
Is it going to be pretty accurate, or are they going to make some stuff up on the way?
They're going to definitely film some conversations that, because I don't think that I highly filming now in Cleveland. They're definitely going to film some conversations in like the summer, pretending it happened this week. Like how they always have a sit down to talk about, like even after Kim's robbery, they had her explain what happened to the sisters, even though we read what happened. It's like, we want to hear their perspective. We want to hear that. So that definitely will happen. In my mind, I do envision what they did with Lamar is they sort of had a title card of, you know, such and such date, this happened. We didn't film for 4 days, and then pick up right after that. I do think there'll be some of that.
I appreciate
the
work that you put into this. I salute you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank you. You're so kind.
You. How are people going to track you down after this and find you and follow everything?
Follow me on Twitter. I'm there 24/7 at Mariah. That's MRIAH, so Mariah without the first A. Or you can go to my website, which is www.mariah.com.
Love it. Is there any truth to the rumor that you were named after Mariah Carey?
Absolutely none. I can say that. Although I should say it to make myself seem younger, but nope, wasn't.
Steve Stoff, this week a show called Jersey Shore, which you're already familiar with, premiered their updated show called Jersey Shore Family Vacation. It follows those 7 housemates, minus one, from the original Jersey Shore spending a month living together in Miami, Florida. Were you excited about the fact that Jersey Shore was back on television?
I didn't think I'd care, to be honest. I obviously, like everybody, watched the cultural phenomenon that was Jersey Shore for several seasons. But thought it was kind of a thing of the past, and I wouldn't care. And so when you asked me to watch it, I, didn't really have any emotion towards it. But as I started to watch it, all of that nostalgia came roaring back, and I found myself really enjoying it again.
Were you surprised that JWoww and Snooki both have children?
No, I mean, they were both complete, train wrecks, but certainly, fertile Italian women, so it was only a matter of time before they both got pregnant.
Well, I don't think Snooki's actually Italian. I think the Italian community would be very upset about that. I believe that she's actually Peruvian.
Well, just as fertile, different part of the world, same fertility.
Were you surprised that Pauly D is a mammoth in the DJ community?
Yeah, I knew about that, and good for him. Of all of them, it seems like he's the one that's really taken the exposure and vaulted himself to real success because of it. If I remember, he was always kind of promoting himself as DJ Pauly D back in the day, but the whole electronic dance thing, whatever the young kids are doing these days, I wouldn't know the first thing about going to see a DJ, but I understand that they make huge amounts of money. I'm not surprised that he took his newfound wealth and spent it on motorcycles and cars and hair product and a tanning bed. I don't know how much DJ Pauly D has really squirreled away in, investment accounts or, multifamily real estate or anything like that. But he's certainly showing better than the other guys.
Are you surprised that Ronnie is going to become a father?
Yeah, he's not going to make a very good dad, is he? He doesn't seem all that excited about it either.
No.
That guy you would have hoped would have matured a little bit. If anything, he's regressed. He seems like kind of a bitter, complaining version of his former meathead self. So complete lack of any maturity, and now he's going to be responsible for shaping the life of a young person with a girl that he is clearly not committed to. This is a recipe for disaster.
Now, they were teasing him, saying that Sammy, who's not going to be on the show because of the mental anguish that putting herself in a home with him would do to herself, but they were teasing him, saying her new boyfriend looks just like Vinny. But I have to say, Vinny's baby mama, or Vinny, I keep saying Vinny, Ronnie's baby mama looks just like Sammy.
Yeah, they have their types. That I think Guido's gonna Guido, and they're gonna stick with what they know. So, Roddy's not the type that's gonna go for, like a put together female attorney or something like that.
No.
He's gonna go for the big hair, the big makeup, the fake boobs, and it takes someone like that to be similarly attracted in someone who is a 5'8" tattooed meathead who's fist pumping in a nightclub. So
it always surprises me that a woman who's quite short would want enormous breast implants. Like, let's say you're a 4'10", 4'11", 5 feet tall. What do you get out of having enormous breasts? Because that would be quite difficult to find clothes that fit you.
Yeah, the proportions don't work. It makes you look heavy even if you're not, because it just takes up so much of your upper body volume. It's all boob. And
right.
So I think that, in just a little snapshot, they think it looks good to have their boobs all pushed up like that and everything. But when you look at the whole rest of the picture, it just makes them look like, blobs. So the whole, Gaywow's a little taller. The fake boobs on her are okay, but on Snooki, along with some of the rest of the heft that she's added, it's not doing her any favors.
No, and it was jarring to see her her veneers.
Yeah, she's not aging very well, is she?
Mm-mm. No.
The combination of a little bit of normal age and maybe some accelerated aging from partying, and then the choices in tanning beds, and the choices she's made for some of the enhancements, she doesn't look so good to me. There's something off there.
Yeah. Okay. Are we surprised that Vinny lives in Staten Island and his mother still does his laundry?
Not at all. That was the least surprising thing of any of the castmates. But he was always the one that seemed the most grounded out of all of them anyway. So I never expected him to move far from mom or to dramatically change his lifestyle like the rest of them have done. He wants to be back in Staten Island.
For sure.
Being fed huge family dinners and having his uncle hit on his girlfriend.
What were your feelings as you watched Mike the Situation discuss in detail his tax problems and the fact he's probably going to go to prison?
I kind of, like the rest of the cast, feel bad for the guy at this point. They took a bunch of emotionally immature, outrageous people and made them famous and put money in front of them. And, like these athletes who are coddled and emotionally immature and financially immature, you give them millions and millions of dollars, and then you expect what? That they're going to make smart decisions and manage their affairs appropriately? No, it's going to be a disaster. So the Situation was a pretty horrendous person, a full-blown alcoholic, and had the capacity to earn money. He clearly did not do the right thing and pay his taxes, and he's going to suffer for that. So maybe now he's actually cleaned up his act and he's genuinely apologetic and is a different person, is off the sauce and all that. And now you've got someone who's more of a decent human being and a stable person that's going to have to pay for the mistakes of his past, which were, clearly amplified by the position he was put in. Had he just been a nightclub, idiot who was fist pumping and showing off his abs, he probably would have never earned more than about $50,000 a year. He would have never had a tax problem. He would have never had the scrutiny of the IRS looking at him as a target. And he would not be looking at a significant jail sentence or prison sentence. And now he is, because of the situation the situation was put into. And, I feel for him. At the same time, you got a responsibility to be an adult, and he just wasn't at the time that it mattered.
Do you think that there's a point to the producers bringing Dina back, or do you feel like she's sort of a wet log?
She was always, nothing more than, comedy or comedic relief. Her and Snooki running around being complete blackout drunk and averaging 5'1", was entertaining for a minute, but she was always the most boring of all the castmates.
Yes.
Aside from that girl who brought her clothes in the trash bag in season 1.
Oh, all right. So are you going to watch all the other episodes? Yes or no?
Yeah. I had no intention of doing so. I really didn't. And now, as we're going into it, I'm remembering things that they did and some of the cultural phenomenon that it was. They put fist pumping on the map. They came up with Jim Tan Laundry. They came up with, MVP. All this stuff that was genuinely pretty entertaining. Those group of guys together are funny. I'm not quite sure that the Miami thing works as well as the Jersey Shore does, but we'll see where it goes.
Hilarious. Well, thank you for your time. I'm assuming that you're very busy at work, so I appreciate the time that you take to watch these garbage shows.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, I did have a thought, because, and by the way, if Dan's willing, I think he should be the one to do this with you. But if Dan refuses, I think that you and I should recreate the Ronnie girlfriend maternity shoot.
You know what? Let's do it. I think that can we add that to our weekend plans outside of kids' baseball games?
Yeah, I think maybe Sunday would be a good day to knock some of that out. But there's some real merit there. We ought to explore it.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
When it comes to your health, brushing your teeth is one of the most important parts of your day. Quip knows that. They've combined dentistry and design to make a better electric toothbrush. Time magazine just named it one of the best inventions of the year. This is why I love it. You know those bulky traditional electric brushes? Those days are over. This is really slim. It even suctions to your mirror, and it has a guiding pulse alert, so you know to switch sides when you're brushing your teeth, so it makes sure both sides are even. Another great thing, you get a subscription plan that refreshes your brush on a dentist recommended schedule, and they deliver a new one every 3 months for just $5, including shipping worldwide. Quip is also backed by a network of over 10,000 dental professionals, including dentists, hygienists, and dental students. Quip starts at just $25, which is a steal. And if you go to getquip.com/reality right now, you'll get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/reality, spelled GETQUIP.com/reality. I'm really thrilled to be able to talk to Rachel Jeffs because she is the author of Breaking Free: How I Escaped Polygamy, the FLDS Cult, and My Father, Warren Jeffs. Let me tell you that when you start reading this book, you think, okay, I'll take a couple of days to read that. I consumed it in approximately 1 hour, 20 minutes. Could not put it down. And I'm really excited to talk to her because she's got a great perspective on not only the polygamous community, but I would love to ask her about what she thinks about polygamy and reality television. So first, I want to say welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So give us a little bit of background. So from the book, you explain that in 1935, the FLDS wing sort of excommunicated itself from the traditional Mormon church for refusing to give up polygamy. So
Yeah.
Warren Jeff's father, Rulon, who's your grandfather, was he the one that sort of set the tone for the FLDS community?
Not necessarily. There was men much higher and above him, but he became a leader quite quickly. And, my father, Warren Jeffs, was one of his middle children. I mean, he had like 60 kids, so he just grew up that way. My father did.
So when people first start reading your book, they're going to, just a preparation for you. I was not aware until I started reading your book that you are a sexual abuse survivor, and you were incredibly brave to really explain what happened. I read a book once by J.C. Dugard, who was the girl that was kidnapped and kept prisoner by her abuser. And one of the most interesting things that she had said in her book was, I'm going to list for you all the things that my abuser did to me because it's not my shame, it's theirs. So as I was reading your book, that came to mind that this is not something that you should ever feel shame for, but he should feel shame for. And I was not aware of the abuse that was happening within his own family tree. So what made you feel brave enough to be open about that experience?
I definitely felt like it wasn't my fault. I felt like it was his. I feel like children are innocent. I also felt like all the people that felt like he was a perfect man had a right to know those details so they would understand how true it was that he did those things.
So you were one of many, many children of his. Your mother was his second wife, Barbara?
Yep.
And you were really the favorite of all of his children. And for many, many years, people were really uncertain why you were the favorite. And then, of course, you came forward later in life. Can you sort of give us a short window into what life was like for you as a child in terms of your day-to-day life?
Living in polygamy with a lot of mothers and children, I enjoyed having a lot of brothers and sisters, a lot of friends, it felt like, I guess. I didn't understand the difficulties between the father's wives until I became a polygamous wife later. But I realize now that there was a lot of jealousy and bad feelings between them, and it often got taken out on us kids. Sometimes you just understand why a mom was mad at you, and later when I grew up and realized it was probably because they were mad at my mom or something. As far as living with my brothers and sisters, I loved them all very much. We had a lot of good times. Other than the sexual abuse, then my childhood wasn't terrible. I mean, the sexual abuse was, but, I learned to just live with it.
And some of the sister wives, you said it's not uncommon for sisters to marry the same man. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, my Warren Jeffs married lots of sisters.
And another thing that I didn't know until I read your book is that as they got older and more powerful, the age of his wives became younger and younger. And he had, in fact, married girls who were quite young, which was really, really hard for you to watch.
Yeah. Traditionally,
in that community, was that typical for you to see a young wife and an older man?
At first you got used to seeing like 18-year-olds with like 70-year-olds. I mean, that happened a lot, but it wasn't until I was older and actually married that he started marrying 15, 14, 13, 12-year-olds, So for most of my life, there wasn't a lot of underage marriages until I got older, but still you'd see a very old man marry a 18-year-old, 19-year-old,
So something else I didn't realize until I read your book is that for you were basically told you're going to get married and it's going to be quickly. And the gentleman that you married didn't even know he was getting married. You were basically put into a room and told you were to marry. And then also,
Yeah.
he already had 2 wives. You also were told by your father, when you get married, you need to tell him, I'm ready to have your baby. And of course, most women in that position have had no sexual education courses or experiences. So it's a quite traumatic event. Of course, you had been the victim of abuse. So it was something that you were unfortunately aware of. But for most of these women, this is quite a traumatic experience, I would assume.
Oh, yes, very much, because for the most part, when they got married, they knew nothing about having children or what it took. And so getting married, like that, and then getting told all about how to have children, it could be very emotional and scary for them, which happened to my 2 older sisters. They didn't know, and they were very scared and emotional about it.
Terrible. And then another thing is that you weren't allowed to name your own children. I believe your first 2 or 3 children, you were told what to name them.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, my Warren just named all my kids, actually, and then I, renamed them after I left. But yeah, he chose all their names. He felt like, I don't know I'm sure it's just because he was a leader and the leader and their grandfather, that he had the right to choose their name.
Do you realize when you're there in the ranch how you are so depleted of rights, or did it not occur to you until you left?
I felt constricted a lot, but at the same time, we were told how terrible the world was, that we should be so grateful that we were there and everything. And, but yeah, I eventually grew to realize that it wasn't as bad as I thought. And then especially after I left, it was much better than I thought. But I was taught that the world was a terrible place and that I should just be grateful. But I very much knew that we were different than the world. I knew the world had a lot more choices than I had, for sure.
So the tricky thing, too, is that he's so manipulative that he convinces his parishioners that anything that happens to him is because of their sins. So when the federal authorities come to arrest him, the blame is then on the parishioners. They didn't pray enough. They weren't good enough people. So
yeah,
can you discuss that a little bit?
He taught us, even from very young, that the prophet or the leader of the church could not do wrong. And so thus, when he became the prophet, everyone just believed he couldn't do wrong. He was a perfect man. And so whatever the world or anyone accused him of, they were lying. And it was just religious persecution because he was such a perfect man. And that's still today what the people that follow him feel like. Even though I knew he had done wrong, but I couldn't come forward with the truth because I knew people were for sure going to believe him above me.
Now, when you married your husband, your first husband, you told him about the abuse, and he continued to believe that Warren, your father, was the prophet, so sort of overlooked that. Did you feel at the time betrayed by your new husband, or was it that you were all sort of indoctrinated to believe anything that the prophet says is truth, that you made peace with that?
I just felt really alone. I felt like I almost felt like it was just, they treated me like I was bad to ever talk about it. And so I just felt really alone, like it was something that I'd always have to keep deep inside of me and never talk about to anybody. Because I realized that my husband didn't want to hear about it, and my father made me feel like I was so terrible for talking about it, that it was just something that I would have to live with inside of me.
One of the things that broke my heart, too, is reading about how during the abuse, he would manipulate you into thinking that you wanted the abuse, which is typical of an abuser. So as you've come forward, have you found there are many, many more stories of young girls that experience the same abuse?
Yes, I have heard so much more, and I I don't know it. And the more stories I hear, the more I realize he's just a typical pedophile. You know, that's how they are. That's how they think, and those kind of people are that way. And there's no possible way that he's a better person than any of the others. I mean, you know, they're just that way. As much as he tried to say and convince me and whoever else that he was a better person, there's no possible way. He's worse.
So in 2005, a grand jury in Mojave County, Arizona, indicted him for sexual misconduct with a minor, conspiracy to commit sexual misconduct with a minor, and for arranging a plural marriage between a teenager and an older man. So he, I believe, is serving a life sentence and then plus 20 years. But the strange thing is, which you do such a beautiful job explaining in the book, is that he still controls the people within his church. They're still writing him letters and visiting him, so he's able to still control the messages.
Yeah.
The authorities know this, but they're not putting a stop to this?
I don't know. I think it has something to do with prisoners' rights. I don't know how it all works. That's what I've heard. Because they can't really stop him from writing letters and having visits, according to what I've heard. I don't understand the law on that, but yeah, that is how it is, because the people in the FLDS church believe they can only receive direction from him. They're only going to listen to him and wait for a word on what to do on each circumstance. And so he very much has control of the church still.
So another surprising thing is that you note in the book that the church has assets worth more than $100 million. Is that through construction projects? What is the reason behind that massive fortune?
The church, yeah, there's big companies that support the church. And Warren Jeffs, that's mostly how they have that kind of money, you know. I don't know what it's exactly at right now, but there is big companies that support the church. Wow.
Okay, so now you've left the church and you sort of, start working your way into the modern world. Is it overwhelming? Because you've basically been told how to wear your hair. You have those outfits that you're forced to wear. Is there some sort of explanation to the dress that they have women wear? Is that just so it's not form-fitting at all?
Yeah, and to keep their bodies covered, you know, that's an important rule. And that their hair is sacred, so they have to keep it up on their head so men can't see it, you know, things like that. It's all about your body's sacred, so don't let anybody see it. And as far as leaving and dressing a different way and all that, no, it's not a bit hard. It's just freeing. I'm just happy to just do what I want.
Right. What was the first thing that you did that you can remember feeling like, I can't believe I'm able to do this?
Watch a movie. Just because movies, we've been taught since I was just so little that movies are terrible. So I guess watching a movie, it was just like, wow, I'm actually watching a movie.
How did you escape just for people just to know in a quick way, how were you able to do it?
I knew I had to be sneaky, and it was scary, mostly facing the people that I knew would try to stop me and convince me how terrible I was for doing it. That was my main reason why I felt like I had to be so secretive about it. I had helped my sisters leave earlier by helping them get in contact with my maternal grandparents on the outside of the church. And so they came and got my sisters, and then I contacted my sisters secretly because I had kept their phone numbers, and then they came and got my kids while I packed my stuff. And then they came late in the night and gathered me up.
And you never spoke to your ex-husband again, and he didn't speak to his children ever again?
Right. I tried to get a hold of him, but he wouldn't talk to me, and he refused to, and sent me a message that he chose to obey Warren Jeffs and not talk to me. And he's never, ever, ever been in my kids' life or helped take care of them in any way since he left.
Terrible. And you never heard from the other wives, I'm assuming?
No, his first wife got sent away forever, and she has her kids, so our kids talk to each other and stuff.
Wow.
So they're half brothers and sisters.
And now you live in Idaho and you have 5 kids and you were able to remarry. How has it been for your new husband to understand what has transpired? Has it been difficult for him to hear the stories?
Probably to a degree, but he was in the church at one time too, the FLDS church. He had left it years before. So he understands a lot. I mean, more than most people would probably. But at the same time, I know it's painful to hear just how bad it was. And at the same time, I think it makes him angry.
Oh, I'm sure. I can imagine.
But it also is very fun to have a true friend that's not living polygamy and I don't have to worry about if he's going to go get in another woman's bed tomorrow night and wonder if he still loves me. It's just so much different. I actually feel like I have a true friend, a loyal friend.
So there have been several television shows that have come out that talk about polygamy. So there's Sister Wives, Seeking Sister Wife, which is almost like Sister Wives, but you see the process of choosing another wife. My 5 Wives, Escaping Polygamy, which you've appeared on. They have a new show called 3 Wives, 1 Husband, and that is about Rockland Ranch, a closed community deep in the Utah desert. Now, it's home to 14 fundamentalist Mormon families. Do these people who are on these different shows, none of them are associated with the group of people that follow Warren Jeffs, correct?
Right, for the most part. I mean, Escaping Polygamy has helped people who are leaving the FLDS, but I think they're the only ones that are anything to do with the FLDS.
So when you watch these shows or people ask you about those shows, does that feel like it's so different from the experience that you had?
I feel like people that try and put polygamy in a light, that it's a wonderful thing, are lying, because I lived in a community of polygamy and everyone acknowledges it is a hard way to live. It's the man is the king. And it's like after he has so many kids in life, they're just not that special to him because he has so many. It's not like a regular man that only has 1 wife and a few kids. They're so much more special to him because he had to work for them and he's so much more grateful for them. I feel like polygamy ruins the family ideals.
Right. Was that your experience too? Is that, for Warren, I mean, it's absurd. He had something like 65 wives. But even for the polygamous families where there are 4 or 5 wives, that the husbands have a very limited relationship with the children that they have.
Very much, and they don't take on any kind of responsibility as far as helping with the children ever. It's just they think they're above that. They think that's all the women's job, and it's just that, they don't interact with the kids like they should, and the wives don't really mean that much either because it's like they're all fighting over the husband anyway. He just feels like a wonderful king.
I know this might be a strange question, but I know that for those of us that have watched the show and aren't married, we can't imagine a man having intimate relationships with a woman every single night. So, if let's say he has 4 wives, they're only seeing him a certain amount of times each night. Do those women feel like they have to be intimate with him when they have a moment with him to maintain the relationship? And if so, how is it possible physically for a man to be with someone every single night?
I don't think he can be, but I think that the women do feel that way because they feel like, hey, now prove that you love me again. If you slept in her bed, now you show me that you love me again. So I think the women do feel like be intimate with me, but I think he very much picks and chooses who he actually has intimacy with the most. I think he definitely loves one above the others. Right. Because it's impossible to love that many. So, I mean, as far as how I could see it in my family, I felt like a lot of times I did, and I know the other ladies felt like, prove to me that you love me, but I know he didn't every time. And I feel like he chose those who he favored and spent a lot more intimate time with them than the others. Even if he did sleep with them, he probably wasn't having sex.
Well, even when I watch that show Sister Wives, it seems like he's got more of a friendship, loose friendship with some women, but the newer wives, he's a little bit more in love with or even affectionate with. So is it?
Yeah, that's how it is. It's like
it,
lots of times they're good friends with some of their wives, but they actually are in love with certain ones.
My heart breaks for those women to feel like they're not in a full relationship, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. What about education? Because in your circumstance, of course, there was practically no education for women, but your understanding of even the families that are featured on these shows, or perhaps just in, Utah, who privately practice polygamy, is that culture supportive of women obtaining an education and finding jobs?
I think some of them really are, but a lot of them aren't because, it's so much in polygamy, pretty much the husband has to be the boss to even kind of keep the peace, that it's all up to him whether or not they get any kind of education or go to work or anything. In those cultures, the FLDS is more like, no, the women cannot get an education or go to work for the most part.
And then when you were on the ranch, he has you wear these dresses and your hair back. Are you allowed to shave?
No, we weren't. I think later I found out after I left that he made his wife shave, but no, it was like a bad thing for for the women in the church to shave.
So do you think that it's possible that there is a lot of depression in that community for the women?
I think there was a huge amount of depression for the women. I think there was a huge amount.
Terrible.
And probably more than anywhere else. I don't know.
So is there a hope for people that are in Centennial now that Warren is behind bars and I believe one of his brothers is as well? How is there hope that there are cracks in that organization, that there are people that can be freed?
I feel like they could if they could just believe that their leader, Warren Jeffs, has done wrong. If they could just believe that he has done what he's done, they would leave. But it's just getting that into their heads is really hard because they believe he can't do wrong.
And then should he pass away in jail, who will become the new leader?
He said, the funny thing is he said that he won't die, and if they say that he died, then they should just wait for him to come back to life. I know it sounds crazy, but I honestly don't think there's going to be another leader. I don't think they'll have anybody to follow. I think they'll just be weird and wait for him. I don't know.
The family that you still have, which I'm sure are quite a bit in the faith, is there hope for you that you will be able to communicate with them or have a relationship with them, even if they stay in the community?
No, they won't. They won't. Definitely, if they stay in the church, they'll never talk to me because they're told how terrible I am. And if they stay there, then they're going to just believe that. I hope that someday they'll come to the reasoning that it's so crazy and they're sick of it and there's nothing there for them. And then they'll come find me, or I'll be able to contact them somehow through that way. And then I can help them.
Wow. Well, again, the book is called Breaking Free, How I Escaped Polygamy, the FLDS Cult, and My Father, Warren Jeffs. How can people find you? Should they want to learn more about what you're working on, your other, the other projects that you're working on, or just to reach out and tell you thank you for what you've done?
I'm especially contactable on Facebook. I have a page called Rachel Jeffs.
Thank you again. I appreciate your time. Southern Charm premiered last week. It was the day after my birthday. And so I felt like that was the universe's way of telling me that it's okay that I'm getting older. Liz Farrell writes for Island Packet. She is based in South Carolina, and she's basically boots on the ground. She is a fantastic writer Hilarious, totally cool and normal, and the kind of girl you'd want to have drinks with at whatever watering hole in South Carolina accommodates a large group of people who like to eat. So I want to say, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for saying all that.
So my first question is, you allude in the beginning to your own personal feeling that many of these scenes, these people are basically acting now. Have we come to the place now where they're acting and this is not really authentic communication between people that have friendships?
That's a good question. So that's just my perspective. I don't know actually that they are, but I also know as, an editor, there's no way they couldn't be. I mean, you would need to get the audience caught up and I just think those are not actors. So the stilted conversation and kind of the recap that they do with each other, like, oh, or you're not dating Naomi anymore. It's like, we knew, like, follow their Instagram if you have a question,
Explain to me who this girl Ashley is that's now dating Thomas Ravenel. Where did she come from? Why is she here? What's going on?
Yeah, really. I don't know. Is she the girl from Roseanne? Like, I keep thinking she's Sarah Chalk from Roseanne. I'm like, is she the third? Like Becky? Is that who that is? Like, she really looks like that. It's funny. So this reporter that works for the newspaper, she was covering when Southern Charm filmed here. And she came back with photos and video from this sort of, filming at this bar on the island. And she really thought that Ashley was just some, like, I don't know, like, I don't like to be insulting, but like a hoochie that showed up at the bar just to be around Thomas and not his, like, actual girlfriend. They were both, according to this reporter, trashed, and as you would expect, and I don't know, messy. I would describe Ashley as messy, I guess, that night. But yeah, what is she? I don't know. Like, I made a joke in my recap that she's from Central Casting because it just literally no chemistry between her and Thomas on screen that I can detect. It's like every time Catherine and Thomas are on screen, you think your TV is going to break because it's just this, like, sort of kinetic thing happening. But I don't know. I think it's pretty clear why Ashley's there.
I feel like we've watched Catherine and Thomas, and you think to yourself, why would this young girl be with this guy? And then he chooses somebody else, and it's even worse. I don't understand why women would want to date a man who looks like a skeleton. He looks like a skeleton smoking a cigarette.
He does. Yeah, it's the white pants. I think that's a lot of responsibility in a relationship is to keep your boyfriend's white pants clean the whole time. He does wear, like, I've seen him out, white pants. It's almost constant. I don't get that. I mean, this is the thing. Like, so I went through a divorce. My husband was 14 years older than I was. So I get the whole, like, daddy thing. I get the whole older man attraction. He can take care of you. I sort of get Catherine on a level of, I hate to call her dumb, but she's dumb. She was young and dumb, and I was equally as young and dumb. I get it. I get that we have this fantasy of what that's going to be like, and that there's a reason someone who's 50 years old is single and, has a reputation like that. And you're not going to be the girl to change him. And I think that's sort of a hard thing to realize. I think Catherine probably really does love him.
Why do Catherine and the nanny loathe each other?
I don't know, but I think it's that reason, obviously. I think that's the problem. I think probably Deirdre facilitates things in Thomas's life, and she's, obviously going to be loyal to where her paycheck is coming from. And I imagine that, Catherine, if you look back again in the episodes, you can see that she knows what's going on. Like, she gets it. And she's able to, articulate what the issue is. So I think with Deirdre is that she completely understands that, Deirdre's not just a nanny. She is also Thomas's nanny, and therefore, protects him and takes care of him, and probably, cuts some sort of maternal figure for him. And I imagine Deirdre annoys me, and I don't know this woman, but whenever she's on the screen, it just feels creepy and icky, and I don't know why.
What about Liz and JD? What are your feelings on JD? Because my opinion is that Liz is a sweet human being that got bamboozled by a shyster. So what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely that. Yeah, absolutely that. Like, that guy is the guy. Like, if if you're single in Charleston, that is what will pop up out of the woodwork for you. That is the guy that, you know, and it's like with his face, I don't know, like it's so everything that we're learning about him, we knew somehow in our hearts the whole time. You know, there's just no way this guy wasn't cheating on her. There's no way this guy wasn't drunk the whole time. There's no way this guy wasn't stealing from her, you know, spending all her money. It's just, yeah, I think he's just like, he is the typical guy who lives outside his means to impress a certain subset. And I think it's like, you know, remember with Craig, like he couldn't keep up with, you know, Shep is legitimately, you know, well-to-do guy. And I think Shep also is somebody who, you know, it's old money. Like he lives within his means more than, you know, maybe people would think. And I would venture to guess that Ravenel does too. I don't know. Of course, their means are more than most of our means, but I don't know. I think JD has he's around people that he can't keep up with, and he just doesn't have that thing in his personality that makes him special. So,
do you
this is bound to happen for him.
Do you think he sleeps in that bow tie?
I think it's stapled to his freaking throat. I think, yeah, probably. That's the thing too, is like, you know, Craig's from Delaware. I don't know where JD is from originally, but it's almost like you kind of get this feeling of just this poser mentality that they both have. And I think even with JD, where it's like, he does sound like he drinks bourbon for breakfast.
What's the word on the street in Charleston circles about the downfall of the house of Naomi and Craig? I think that she grew up with incredibly successful parents. I think she's a successful person in her own right. I think her dream for herself,
she's type A for sure,
was to marry somebody who probably worked in financial services, has some sort of pedigree, and can speak at least 2 different languages. But what she ended up with Craig was a guy who may or may not have graduated from law school and had big dreams, but really just wants to spend someone else's money and embroider clothing while sitting next to his cat.
He's hapless.
Yes.
That's the word for him. He's just hapless. He's somebody that, and I think Craig, I mean, that's the thing. I could easily see how she would fall in love with him. I mean, his personality and all that. But then you start to dig at it and you realize that he is a scattered human being who just isn't able to sort of get a foothold on life. And yeah, I think she's a powerful person. Like Naomi strikes me as an alpha female who, you know, is deliberate, knows what she wants, isn't lazy, you know, and they just don't share those qualities. But I think that would be a hard thing because I think they truly do love each other. And I think that there's, I don't think they're meant for each other.
No.
It's kind of good that this happened, I guess. But yeah, she's meant for more in this world, and I think she wishes that he could be more so that it would work. And that just seems like something familiar that we've all been in, where it's like you want the guy that you connect with, but then you sort of see everything and you're like, that is not good for my life. That is not something I would want to have in my life. So yeah, I don't know. But I think Naomi is probably, you know, the breakout star of the show.
Now, if people want to track you down, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter. I'll post my columns on Twitter. I feel bad because it's like, also I am a journalist. I cover stuff that's not Southern Charm. So, but you can find my Southern Charm stuff on Twitter. It's at Liz Farrell. So it's ELIZ, and it's my last name, which is F as in Frank, ARRELL. And that's where I'll post them.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my awesome guests this week, Mariah Smith, Steve Stoff, Rachel Jeffs, and Liz Farrell. I wanted to remind you to subscribe to the show, super important, and to leave a 5-star review. Make sure you join the Facebook group for this podcast, Reality Life with Kate Casey. Just put it in the search bar on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at Kate Casey. My Instagram is at KateCaseyCA, and I will be performing with Heather McDonald at the Irvine Improv the weekend of June 22nd and 23rd, and I would love to have you come to the show and hang out. You do realize that I will probably be, 8.5 months pregnant, so if you want to have a great date night or girls' night out and watch me on stage heavily pregnant do a couple splits, this is your show. Have a great week, and I'm already laughing thinking about next week's episode.